I'm sitting here in my kitchen this morning holding three airline boarding passes that fell out of my son's jacket pocket last night. The coffee's gone cold in my cup, but I can't seem to move. The passes are for today, my 73rd birthday, and they're bound for Paris. I see David's name, his wife Monica's, and someone I don't recognize, M. Chen. 2 weeks ago, my youngest son looked me in the eye and said, "Mom, we're really cutting costs this year. No birthday gifts, okay? Money's just too tight right now." I remember nodding, understanding. I raised 5 children through 2 recessions and buried my husband during the worst financial year of our lives. I know what real struggle looks like. But these boarding passes in my hands, they tell a different story entirely. The autumn wind is rattling my windows, the same windows David used to press his little nose against, watching for his father to come home from work. This house has held 47 years of my life, and I thought I knew everything about the boy I raised within these walls. The boy who used to save his allowance to buy me drugstore perfume for Mother's Day. The boy who cried when I cried, who called me every Sunday without fail until, when did the calls stop coming so regularly? My phone hasn't rung this morning. No happy birthday, Mom. No knock at the door. Just me, these boarding passes, and the slow, cold realization that my son chose to be anywhere but here on the day I brought him into this world. I'm not angry yet. Anger comes later, I've learned. Right now, I'm just sitting in this quiet confusion, wondering how the child I thought I knew better than myself became someone who could look me in the eye and lie so easily. And wondering who M. Chen is and why they're worth more than his mother's birthday. My name is Jessica Elena Martinez, and I've been telling myself for months that I was imagining things, that the distance I felt growing between David and me was just the natural evolution of a mother-son relationship. After all, he's 38 now, married for 3 years, building his own life. I should be proud, not worried. I've lived in this same brick house on Maple Street since 1978, when Carlos and I bought it with a loan we could barely afford and dreams bigger than our bank account. We raised 5 children here: Maria, Carlos Jr., Antonio, Isabella, and David. The house has good bones, Carlos used to say, running his hands along the crown molding he installed himself. It's held our joys and sorrows with equal grace. David was my surprise baby, born when I was 35 and thought I was done with midnight feedings and first steps. Maybe that's why he's always felt different to me. My unexpected gift, arriving when his siblings were already in high school and I'd forgotten how sweet a baby's laugh could be. The others scattered across the country as adults. Maria in Seattle, Carlos Jr. in Denver, Antonio in Chicago, Isabella down in Austin. But David stayed close. "I like it here, Mom," he'd say when I'd suggest he might want to explore other cities. "Why would I leave the best cook in America?" He'd wink when he said it, just like his father used to. David works in marketing for Morrison and Associates downtown. He's good at his job, creative, reliable, the kind of employee who gets promoted steadily, if not spectacularly. Monica teaches English at Roosevelt High School. She's a serious girl, quiet in the way that made me think she was either very thoughtful or very judgmental. I tried not to decide which. They got married 3 years ago in my backyard, under the old oak tree where David built his first treehouse. It was a small ceremony, just family and close friends. Monica's parents flew in from San Francisco. Her father owns some kind of tech consulting business. Her mother is a retired professor. Nice people, though I noticed how Monica's mother, Margaret Chin, kept suggesting improvements to our simple celebration. Perhaps we could add some uplighting. Have you considered a string quartet instead of the DJ? I remember thinking then that Monica came from money, the kind of family where cutting costs meant buying the mid-priced wine instead of the expensive bottle. But David seemed happy, and that was all that mattered to me. For the first 2 years of their marriage, David still came by twice a week. Tuesday evenings for dinner, Saturday mornings to help with yard work or household repairs. Monica usually came for dinner, though she often seemed distracted, checking her phone or mentioning grading papers. I told myself this was normal, young wives adjusting to sharing their husbands with their mothers-in-law. I'd been the same way with Carlos's mother at first, but this past year, something shifted. David's visits became shorter, more purposeful. Just checking your gutters, Mom. Wanted to make sure your car's running fine. The easy conversation we used to share over coffee started feeling forced. He'd glance at his watch, mention meetings or errands. The man who used to linger at my kitchen table, telling me about his day, his dreams, his small struggles, became someone who was always looking toward the door. Monica stopped coming to dinners altogether around 6 months ago. She's swamped with work, David would explain. You know how teachers are, always grading papers or planning lessons. I accepted this because I wanted to be understanding, because I remembered how overwhelming young marriage could feel. But now, sitting here with these boarding passes, I'm remembering other things too. How David's clothes seem nicer lately. Subtle improvements that spoke of someone with more disposable income than he claimed. How he and Monica took a long weekend to Napa Valley this spring, which he mentioned casually and then seemed to regret sharing. How, whenever I asked about their finances, not prying, just the natural concern of a mother, David would change the subject quickly. We're fine, Mom. Just being careful with money. You know how it is. I thought I did know. I thought I understood the normal struggles of a young couple building their life together. I'd been there myself, counting every dollar, choosing between groceries and entertainment, learning to say no to things we wanted because we were saving for things we needed. But these boarding passes suggest a different reality. First class seats to Paris don't align with cutting costs. And the timing, leaving on my birthday without a word, speaks to a level of deception that I'm only beginning to understand. I think about the last time David hugged me, really hugged me, the way he used to as a boy when he'd throw his whole body into showing affection. When did those hugs become brief, polite embraces? When did my son's eyes start avoiding mine during conversation? The house feels extra quiet this morning. Usually by now, I'd have heard from at least one of my other children, a birthday call from Maria, a text from Antonio, something. But my phone stays silent, and I wonder if they know something I don't. If David's distance from me has somehow spread to distance from his siblings too. I set the boarding passes on the kitchen table next to my cold coffee and walked to the window. The oak tree in my backyard is losing its leaves, the same tree where David and Monica exchanged vows 3 years ago. I remember that day, how proud I felt, how hopeful, how David looked at Monica like she held all his tomorrows in her hands. Maybe she did. Maybe I've been losing my son one small lie at a time, and today is just the day I finally found the proof. I spend the morning doing what I always do when I'm upset. I clean, not because the house is dirty, but because my hands need something to do while my mind tries to make sense of what I've discovered. I dust the living room, reorganize the kitchen cabinets, fold laundry that was already folded. All the while, those boarding passes sit on my kitchen table like evidence of a crime I'm still trying to understand. Around 11, my phone finally rings. It's my daughter Isabella calling from Austin. Happy birthday, Mama. Her voice is bright, warm, everything I needed to hear. How are you celebrating? Please tell me David's planning something special. I almost laugh at the irony. Oh, you know David. He's got his own plans today. Good. You deserve to be spoiled. I'm sorry I can't be there, but my flowers should arrive this afternoon. And Mama? Isabella pauses. I know birthdays can be hard without Daddy, but you know how proud he'd be of the life you've built. How proud we all are. After we hang up, I sit with her words. Isabella thinks I'm celebrating. She has no idea her brother told me no gifts this year, no idea he's probably boarding a plane to Paris right now. This means David hasn't shared his financial struggles with his siblings, if they're even real struggles at all. The flowers arrive at noon, a beautiful arrangement of yellow roses from Isabella. At 1 o'clock, Carlos Jr. calls from Denver. At 2, Maria from Seattle. At 3, Antonio from Chicago. All my children remember my birthday, except the one who lives 15 minutes away. By 4 o'clock, I can't stand the uncertainty anymore. I drive to David's apartment complex, my hands gripping the steering wheel tighter than necessary. Their parking space is empty, which confirms what I already knew. but I need to see for myself. I used the spare key David gave me for emergencies, just in case, Mom, you never know. I let myself into their apartment, feeling like an intruder in my own son's life. The place is neat, modern, more expensive looking than I remembered. There's a new leather sofa in the living room, artwork on the walls that speaks of someone with taste and money to indulge it. In their bedroom, I find evidence of hasty packing. Monica's jewelry box is open, expensive pieces missing. David's good luggage is gone from the closet. And on Monica's nightstand, I find a travel itinerary that makes my heart sink. Paris honeymoon trip, take 2. It says across the top in cheerful font. Below that, a detailed schedule, first-class flights, 5-star hotels, restaurant reservations at places I can't pronounce. The trip is marked as a gift from Mom and Dad Chin for their 3rd anniversary. Anniversary, not honeymoon. This is a do-over, a luxury vacation funded by Monica's parents. I sink onto their bed, the itinerary trembling in my hands. This isn't about cutting costs at all. This is about priorities, about choosing Monica's family's generosity over acknowledgement of his own mother's birthday. David didn't lie about money being tight. He lied about where his loyalty lies. But there's more. At the bottom of the itinerary, there's a note in Monica's handwriting. Remember, Mom says this is our chance to experience what we deserves the first time. Don't feel guilty about Jessica's birthday. She'll understand. Don't feel guilty about Jessica's birthday. She'll understand. The words hit me like a physical blow. Monica not only knew about my birthday, she gave David permission to dismiss it. And she was confident that I would understand, that I would accept being less important than a luxury vacation funded by her parents. I sit in my son's bedroom, surrounded by evidence of a life I apparently don't really know, and try to piece together when everything changed. When did my son become someone who could accept such expensive gifts while telling his mother that money was too tight for a birthday card? When did my relationship with him become something to feel guilty about rather than cherish? The apartment feels foreign to me now, despite the family photos scattered around, pictures that include me, but somehow make me feel like an outsider looking in. There's a large photo from their wedding on the dresser, and I noticed something I hadn't before: the way Monica's parents dominate the family grouping, the way David seems to lean toward them rather than toward me. I think about Margaret Chen, Monica's mother. She's an elegant woman, always perfectly dressed, with the kind of confidence that comes from never having to check price tags. During wedding planning, she'd make suggestions that sounded like gentle improvements but felt like criticisms of anything I offered. Jessica, your idea about the potluck reception is so authentic, but perhaps we could supplement with some catered options? At the time, I'd appreciated her help. Now I wonder if she was slowly establishing herself as the superior mother figure in my son's new life. I find myself searching their apartment for signs of my influence, my presence in their daily lives. The coffee mugs I gave them for Christmas are pushed to the back of the cabinet. The throw blanket I crocheted for their 1st anniversary is nowhere to be seen. But there's a new painting in their dining room, something expensive and abstract, with a small placard that reads, "Gift from Margaret and Robert Chin, Christmas 2024. Christmas 2024. 2 months ago. While David was telling me about cutting costs, he was accepting expensive artwork from Monica's parents. I sit on their couch and call David's cell phone, knowing he won't answer, knowing he's probably somewhere over the Atlantic Ocean right now. His voicemail picks up, the same cheerful message he's had for years. "Hi, you've reached David. Leave a message and I'll get back to you soon." "David, it's Mom," I say after the beep. "I found your boarding passes. I know where you are today. I know about the trip from Monica's parents. I'm sitting in your apartment right now looking at the itinerary, and my voice breaks. I just want to understand when I became someone you needed to lie to, when I became someone whose birthday didn't matter anymore. Call me when you get back. We need to talk." I hang up and sit in the silence of their apartment, surrounded by evidence of the life my son has built without me. A life where Monica's mother's opinions carry more weight than mine, where luxury trips take precedence over family obligations, where lying to your own mother becomes acceptable if it avoids an uncomfortable conversation. The worst part isn't even the lie about money. It's the casual dismissal of my feelings. She'll understand. As if my love for David means I should accept being treated as less important than his wife's parents. As if being a understanding mother means having no expectations of respect or consideration in return. I think about all the times I've made excuses for David's recent behavior. All the times I've told myself to be patient, to give him space, to understand that marriage changes things. I've been so afraid of being the clingy mother, the mother-in-law who doesn't know her place, that I've allowed myself to become invisible in my own son's life. But this isn't about being clingy or demanding. This is about basic respect, about honesty, about the simple courtesy of acknowledging that the woman who gave you life might deserve consideration on the anniversary of that gift. I lock up their apartment and drive home as the sun sets on my 73rd birthday. The house feels different when I walk in, not like a haven anymore, but like evidence of how alone I've become. All those years I spent making this house a warm place for my children to return to, and now the child who lives closest can't even be bothered to call. I make myself a simple dinner and eat it at the kitchen table, those boarding passes still lying where I left them this morning. As I eat, I think about the phone call I'll receive tomorrow or the next day when David returns and finds my voicemail. I imagine how he'll sound, probably defensive, maybe angry that I invaded his privacy by using my key. He'll have explanations, justifications. Monica will have coached him on what to say. But for now, I sit with the truth. My son chose to lie to me rather than have an honest conversation about his priorities. He chose his wife's family's generosity over acknowledging his own mother's birthday. And somewhere along the way, I became someone in his life to be managed rather than loved. The birthday I thought would be quiet has become the day I realize I've been losing my son one small deception at a time, and today was just the day I finally found the proof. David doesn't call for 3 days. When he finally does, it's a Tuesday evening, and I'm watering the plants on my front porch when my phone rings. His name appears on the screen, and I let it ring twice before answering. "Hi, Mom." His voice is careful, measured. "I got your message. I think there might be some misunderstanding." "David," I interrupt gently. "I found the itinerary too. The one that says, 'Don't feel guilty about Jessica's birthday, she'll understand.'" Silence. Long enough that I wonder if the call dropped. Then, "Mom, I can explain. I'm sure you can. Why don't you come over for dinner tomorrow? Bring Monica." It's time we had an honest conversation. He arrives alone the next evening, looking younger somehow, like the boy who used to sit at this same kitchen table confessing to broken windows or forgotten homework. But there's something else in his face now, a wariness that breaks my heart. "Monica had to work late," he says, though we both know it's an excuse. I serve him his favorite meal, my mother's recipe for chicken with rice and beans, and we eat mostly in silence. Finally, I set down my fork and look at my son directly. "Tell me about Margaret Chin," I say. David's fork stops halfway to his mouth. "What do you mean?" "I mean, tell me about your relationship with Monica's mother. Because I'm starting to think this isn't really about cutting costs or even about lying to me. I think this is about something else entirely." He sets down his fork and runs his hands through his hair, a gesture he's made since childhood when he's stressed. "Mom, it's complicated. Then help me understand. Because the son I raised wouldn't lie to his mother about money while accepting expensive gifts from his in-laws. The son I raised wouldn't leave town on my birthday without even a phone call. So either I don't know you as well as I thought, or something has changed." David is quiet for a long moment, staring at his plate. When he finally speaks, his voice is small. "Monica thinks you don't like her." This catches me off guard. Why would she think that? Because you never seem to approve of anything about our relationship, about her family, her job, the way we live. Margaret made Monica feel like her ideas were valued, like her opinions mattered. You made her feel judged. I sit back in my chair, genuinely confused. "David, when did I ever judge Monica?" "It wasn't what you said. It was what you didn't say. When Margaret suggested improvements to the wedding, you'd just go quiet. When Monica talked about her work, you'd change the subject. When we bought new furniture or took trips, you'd get this look on your face like we were being irresponsible. I think back, trying to see my behavior through their eyes. I was trying to be respectful, to not interfere. I thought, you thought you were being polite. But Monica saw it as disapproval. And Margaret stepped in where you stepped back. What do you mean? David sighs deeply. Margaret listens to Monica's work stories. She gets excited about Monica's achievements. She asks about our future plans and offers to help make them happen. She makes Monica feel like family. Monica is family. She's been family since the day you married her. But you never made her feel that way, Mom. You were kind, you were polite, but you never made her feel chosen. Like you were happy she was part of our lives. The words hit me like cold water. I think about all the times I held back comments, all the times I bit my tongue to avoid seeming like an interfering mother-in-law, all the times I chose silence over engagement because I thought that's what good mothers-in-law did. So Margaret became her real mother-in-law, I say quietly. She became the mother-in-law who celebrated Monica instead of tolerating her. And gradually, she became more important to both of us than he trails off than I was. Mom, it wasn't intentional. It just happened over time. Margaret would invite us for dinner and actually want to hear about our lives. She'd offer help without making us feel like we were failing. She'd suggest trips and experiences instead of worrying about how much they cost. Because she has money to offer help, I don't. It's not about money. David's voice rises, then he catches himself. It's about feeling supported instead of judged. It's about feeling like someone believes in your choices instead of questioning them. I sit with this, trying to understand. So the Paris trip was Margaret's idea. She said Monica deserved a real honeymoon, not the budget weekend we could afford 3 years ago. She said we worked hard and should enjoy the fruits of our labor. She made it feel like a celebration instead of charity. And my birthday? David looks down at his hands. Margaret said it was time I stopped feeling guilty about living my own life. She said you'd understand because you love me. She said real love means wanting your children to be happy, even if it means less time with you. The manipulation is subtle but clear now. Margaret Chin has systematically positioned herself as the supportive, understanding mother figure while casting me as the judgmental, limiting one. She's used my own attempts at respectful distance against me, filling the space I left empty with her own influence. David, I say carefully, did it ever occur to you that Margaret might have her own agenda? What do you mean? I mean that she's been very deliberate about replacing me in your life, about making herself essential while making me seem optional. David's face flushes. That's not, Mom, she's just being generous. Generous, yes, but also strategic. Think about it. Every suggestion she makes puts distance between you and me. Every gift comes with the implicit message that your family of origin can't provide what her family can. Every invitation reinforces your dependence on their approval and resources. You're being paranoid. Am I? David, when was the last time you made a decision about your life without consulting Margaret first? When was the last time you and Monica had dinner at my house? When was the last time you called me just to talk? Not because you needed something fixed or checked. He opens his mouth to answer, then closes it. The realization dawns slowly across his face. She's not evil, I continue. She's not even wrong to want the best for her daughter. But she's systematically erased me from your life by convincing you that I was holding you back. And you've let her do it because her way is easier than having real conversations with me about what you need. David slumps in his chair. I didn't realize. Of course you didn't. She's been very careful about it. Every criticism of me has been gentle, wrapped in concern for your happiness. Every gift has come with just enough judgment of our family's resources to make you feel like you're moving up in the world by moving away from me. We sit in silence for several minutes. Finally, David speaks. What do I do now? You decide who you want to be, I say. The man who lies to his mother about money while accepting luxury gifts from his in-laws. The man who disappears on her birthday because his wife's mother says it's okay. Or the man I raised. The one who understands that love isn't about money or gifts, but about showing up for the people who matter. I'm sorry, Mom. I'm so sorry. I know you are. But sorry doesn't fix this, David. What fixes this is you deciding whether you want a real relationship with me or if you're content to let Margaret Chen manage our family dynamic from now on. He looks up at me with tears in his eyes. I want to fix this, but I don't know how. Margaret is so woven into our lives now, and Monica really does feel closer to her than to you. Then we start there, I say. We start with honesty about what's happened, and we build something real instead of polite. But David, this can't be about choosing sides. It has to be about choosing truth. About all of us being honest about what we want and need instead of letting one person orchestrate everyone else's relationships. Will you try? With Monica, I mean. I reach across the table and take my son's hand. I'll try if she'll try. But no more lies, David. No more managing my feelings to protect Margaret's influence. If we're going to be family, we have to be real family, messy and honest and sometimes difficult. He nods, squeezing my hand. I love you, Mom. I love you too. That's why this matters so much. The conversation with Monica happens 2 weeks later in my living room on a Sunday afternoon. David sits between us like a nervous referee, but I've asked him to let us talk directly to each other. Monica perches on the edge of the sofa, her hands folded in her lap, looking like she'd rather be anywhere else. Monica, I begin, I owe you an apology. She looks up, surprised. I thought I was being respectful by giving you space, by not inserting myself into your marriage or your decisions. But I realize now that what I thought was respect felt like disinterest to you, like I didn't care enough to engage with your life. Monica's shoulders relaxed slightly. I did feel like you never really wanted to get to know me, like you were just tolerating me because David loved me. That couldn't be further from the truth. I was trying so hard not to be the stereotypical interfering mother-in-law that I became the distant mother-in-law instead. I thought if I asked too many questions or offered too many opinions, you'd feel overwhelmed. But my mother asks questions. She wants to know about my day, my students, my dreams. She makes me feel like my life matters to her. Your life does matter to me, I say. But I was afraid to show that because I thought you needed space to become part of our family on your own terms. I was wrong. Monica is quiet for a moment. I never knew how to talk to you. You seemed so composed. Like you had everything figured out and didn't need anything from anyone. I almost laugh. Oh, sweetheart, I'm a 73-year-old widow who talks to her dead husband's picture every morning and still cries sometimes when I see elderly couples holding hands in the grocery store. I'm about as far from having everything figured out as a person can be. For the first time since she walked in, Monica smiles. Really? Really? I've been learning how to be alone for 8 years now, and some days I still get it wrong. I've been learning how to be a mother-in-law for 3 years, and clearly I've gotten that wrong too. I thought you didn't like me because I wasn't Hispanic, because I didn't cook the foods David grew up with or understand the family traditions. This surprises me. Monica, love isn't about cooking or traditions. It's about caring for the people we love. You make David happy in ways I never could, and that's exactly what a wife should do. My mother said you probably resented that I took David away from you. I take a deep breath. Your mother has been very involved in shaping how you see our relationship. Monica stiffens. She's been supportive. She has. But she's also been protective in ways that maybe weren't necessary. I'm not your enemy, Monica. I never was. But I think it's been useful for your mother to position me as someone you needed protection from. What do you mean? David shifts uncomfortably beside her, but I continue. I think your mother loves you very much and wants to be important in your life. But sometimes when we want to be important, we make other people seem less important by comparison. It's easier to be the good mother-in-law when the other mother-in-law is painted as difficult or judgmental. Monica considers this. You think she deliberately made me feel like you didn't like me? I think she encouraged you to interpret my behavior in the worst possible light, yes. Not because she's malicious, but because it served her purpose of being your primary maternal support. But she's given us so much: the trips, the furniture, the help with. I'm not saying her generosity isn't real. I'm saying it might come with strings attached that you haven't noticed yet. When someone becomes your primary source of support, they also become your primary source of influence. They get to shape how you see the world, how you make decisions, how you view other relationships. Monica looks at David, then back at me. So what do we do now? We start over, I say. All of us. We build a relationship based on who we actually are instead of who we've been told the other person is. But Monica, that means you have to decide if you want a relationship with me or if you're content to let your mother manage that part of your life. I want to try, she says quietly, but I don't know how. We start small. We start honest. You tell me when something I do bothers you instead of telling your mother and letting her interpret it for you. I tell you what I need instead of expecting you to guess. David stops trying to protect everyone's feelings and starts facilitating real communication. What about my mother? Your mother can still be important in your life, but she can't be the only important voice. And she can't continue to undermine other relationships in order to maintain her position as the most important voice. Over the following weeks, we begin the slow work of rebuilding. Monica starts coming to Sunday dinners again, but this time she talks about her students, her frustrations, her hopes. I ask questions and offer opinions. When she mentions being overwhelmed with lesson planning, I don't change the subject. I ask how I can help. David stops filtering our conversations through what he thinks each of us wants to hear. When Monica's mother suggests another expensive trip, David talks to both of us before deciding. When I have concerns about something, I express them directly instead of hoping David will figure out what I'm thinking. It's not always smooth. Monica still runs things by her mother, and sometimes Margaret's advice creates tension. I still sometimes hold back when I should speak up. David still sometimes tries to manage our emotions instead of trusting us to work things out. But we're learning. Monica learns that I worry about their finances not because I'm judgmental, but because I love them and want them to be secure. I learned that Monica's career is demanding and important to her, and that my questions about her late nights aren't seen as supportive. They're seen as criticism. David learns that he can love both his mother and his mother-in-law without choosing sides, but that he can't let one relationship be sacrificed to maintain the other. 3 months after the Paris trip that changed everything, we're sitting in my backyard under the oak tree where David and Monica were married. Monica is telling me about a difficult student who reminds her of herself at that age, and I'm listening without trying to fix anything. David is grilling hamburgers and periodically joining the conversation without managing it. Jessica, Monica says, and I notice she stopped calling me Mrs. Debris. Martinez. I'm sorry it took me so long to realize you weren't the enemy. I'm sorry it took me so long to realize that being respectful and being engaged aren't mutually exclusive, I reply. Are we going to be okay? She asks. I look at my daughter-in-law, because that's what she is truly, for the first time, and smile. We're going to be better than okay. We're going to be family. You know, I used to think that love meant never making anyone uncomfortable, never asking for too much, never being a burden. I thought being a good mother meant stepping back so gracefully that my children wouldn't even notice the space I left behind. But I learned something important on my 73rd birthday. Love without honesty isn't really love at all. It's just polite pretending. And families built on polite pretending don't actually function as families. They function as careful arrangements of people who happen to share DNA. The truth is, relationships require courage. The courage to ask for what you need. The courage to say when you're hurt. The courage to risk being seen as imperfect in order to be seen as real. Margaret Chen wasn't wrong to want to be important in her daughter's life, but she was wrong to believe that someone else had to be less important for her to matter more. Love multiplies when it's shared honestly. It only diminishes when it's hoarded or manipulated. Today, David calls me just to talk. Monica sends me texts about her students. We argue sometimes, and that's okay too, because real families don't just love each other. They show up for each other, even when it's inconvenient. If this story touched your heart, if you've ever felt invisible in your own family or struggled with the balance between respect and engagement, leave the word truth in the comments below. Sometimes the most loving thing we can do is insist on honesty even when it's uncomfortable.